Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Well, it's Friday night here in the U.S. We know overseas, down in the land down under, it is, I think, about 11 a.m. Down in Australia. I'd like to welcome to the studio, to the show, my co-host coming in from Nashville, Tennessee, Jeff Fasano, Evis Heath, the man of the land from down under, coming in from New South Wales, Australia, Josh Ritcher coming in from Southern California, Santa Monica to be specific, and we have Sir Charles Mattocks coming in from Tampa, Florida. Welcome to the studio, guys. Down under coming in from New South Wales, Australia. Josh Ritcher coming in from...
Hey, how are you guys?
Morning from the land down under, brothers.
Good evening.
There's always something at the start of this show, isn't there?
It's live TV.
Yeah. So grateful for everybody who's joining us. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been quite the week. You know, I could tell you, today I made a conscious decision to jump out into nature and to head to the top of one of the tallest peaks in Sedona, Arizona. It's called Bell Rock. First time up there, and my intention was to go as high up as I can get to the top. I did a primitive trail. I made it to the second highest peak, and I tell you what, it is a vortex. It's two of the most energetic vortexes in the state of in Sedona, I should say. And it's just what I needed. It's what I needed to kind of be in the moment, be in the flow, push myself through some fears of heights, some fears of rock climbing, some fears of flipping and falling. But here I am. I made it home just in time. And I'm excited for tonight's show because we have all been touched over the last 2+ weeks now in our own emotions and our own feelings, dealing with the current events that we have all been experiencing, we've all been exposed to. And in the United States, and you know, the beautiful thing about how the world revolves today is that years past, what was going on in the United States may have taken some time to hit other countries. But today, we're all in the same time zone. We may go to sleep at a different time, we wake up at a different time, but in the end, we are all connected. And so what I'd like to do is invite Evis Heath to jump in right out of the gate and share with us your perspective on what is in fact been going on in the United States and how it's impacting you and your brothers and sisters overseas in Australia.
Yeah, well, as always, brothers, thank you for having me in the land down under from the other side of the pond, and all of our brothers and sisters out there in our continued audience, man. You know, we can't do this show without you. So as always, thank you. And I opened up this morning, Jay. I actually went out in nature myself, as we call it here in the land down under, bush. And it was nice, man. I got out there and, as always, I just set my affirmations for the day, ground myself, center myself, align myself. And I feel at rest. I feel at peace. I feel grounded. I don't feel like I'm at rush. I don't feel like I'm, flight or fight. I don't feel that I'm in survival mode. You know, it was funny. We were just talking in the green room, and last week I was talking a little bit about a video that I actually did in regards to one of the days that we as First Nations people here, you would say, celebrate. It's just called Sorry Day. And it was only 1 or 2 days later that it just so happened to be that all of this stuff erupted on the other side of the pond. Now, I work in synchronicities, and when I see things like this come to the light, it really hits a light bulb moment for me to allow me to really observe, not only as an individual, but as a collective, and the feeling that we're currently getting on this vibration of the planet. And you know what? I went out of my way and, I actually watched the original video that set all this off, and I've got to be, straight up and transparent, man. It made me feel sick. I went to the toilet, man. I was nearly about to vomit. It really made me feel in fear. And, that sorry day that I talked about, just to cut a long story short, I talked a little bit about how for too long, particularly you might want to say many colored, black, brown, whatever you want to call us, people have been living in survival mode. I mean, my people, like I said in that video, we still celebrate Sorry Day. We still celebrate Survival Day. We've been living in survival since day one. My thing in that video was to start transforming and transmuting this energy into living in thrival day. So every year on that survival day, on that sorry day, you won't see me protesting, man. I've been on the front lines. I was on the front lines as a 6-year-old. My dad was one of the early leaders in our community that started the protest. But today, I'm about anti-testing. I'm about thriving. I'm about making moves and creating instead of hating. So today, I'm really going to dive in deep, and I'm looking forward to this one, Jay.
I want to take a moment to thank you, Evis, for opening us up in this really critical conversation. You mentioned the tagline of tonight's show is create over hate. And I chose to wear this T-shirt, one of the T-shirts that we market at Choose Compassion, because I think it's part of the conversation that we should all be having in our homes and in our communities. And I believe it goes further than compassion. It also, wrapped around compassion, is the word called love. Where does love play into this conversation as opposed to hate? What I'd like to do is invite Charles to open up and share from your perspective, coming in from Tampa, Florida. How have you personally been impacted and by these last couple of weeks, and how have you processed your own emotions, your own feelings, as I know you have personally been touched?
Yeah, I think that when I thought of this whole, idea too as well, of us wanting to touch this topic, it was from the aspect of understanding why and where these emotions are coming from. And because we have good people, so-called good people, who are literally feeling anger, feeling hate, feeling regret, feeling sorrow. I mean, you're seeing a nation and many nations who are lost, are hurting, are broken. And, do we turn those emotions into anger? Do we turn those emotions into hate? And it's almost like this system is allowing people to truly hate, whether it's one side or the next side, and picking sides. And it's hard not to. I remember I posted the other day, I had done a cast read through with Oprah. And I remember reading this piece where I was supposed to play her husband. And I never forget this day. And it was talking about a scene where Black people back in those days, in the earlier days, we had to be able to look someone in their eye and see and tell if that person hated us. And I just remember thinking, especially as a child, back then, what kind of ability was that to have? And that ability still transfers over now, where we walk into a certain place and we can, kind of have to see if this person or if this crowd is against us. So, I look at, I'm a big fan of Malcolm X, and when he talked about house Negro and the field Negro, and he talked about the house Negro, the field Negro was wanting the house to burn down, and while the house Negro was trying to put out the flames faster than the owner himself. And I think, you know, in that whole comparison of what he was talking about, you know, he was realizing that had to happen. That house had to burn down, and that, you know, standing in the field and watching as you have been persecuted and beat down, and these emotions and these feelings want a strong wind to come and swoop that house up. So when I look at things right now, there's a lot of emotions that go through me. And just like with Evis, you know, some of these emotions, it's sickening, because number one, that could be me at any time. That could be me. So I think that, you know, I'm glad we're talking about this right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So deep and so beautiful. And you're right. It brings up, you know, I mean, so much in you, and so much in all of us. I think, you know, as a society, we're finally there to say, no, we don't want this anymore. It's not going to be swept under the rug again. We're taking a stand, and this is the last time, and this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the movement. I feel the energy of the people, and we're seeing it as the protests continue. And I love that we're taking a stand right now, because this isn't right. We're all brothers and sisters. That idea of separation, that, you know, even in ourselves, seeing ourselves as separate from, you know, any one of you guys, even, we're not. We are all one. We're all here together. And I think we're all feeling the deep pain and sadness and sorrow. And yeah, I hurt for everybody. I feel everyone's hurt right now. And I think that energy and that oneness is going to fuel us to say that this is the last time, and we're taking a stand.
Yeah.
And let me jump in real quick too as well. You know, this is not, and a lot of people look at this from a police standpoint, but you know, this is much deeper than that. I look at this from a judge standpoint, a prosecutor standpoint. The police cannot try and convict you. They can only write up some little simple charges, right? Those charges mean absolutely nothing, unless a DA or prosecutor takes those charges and does something with them. And that's the issue to me that is more important than a police person, basically a security guard writing down some charges for you. And because once they take those trumped up charges, and now they overcharge, they know people who are less fortunate can't afford lawyers, and judges who know that they're being railroaded, and that they're walking into something that they have no idea of what they're walking into or signing up for, and now they're prosecuted and spending time in jail for maybe something that they didn't do, a trumped up lie, a trumped up charge, right? How many times have we seen resisting arrest? How do you beat that charge, right? I mean, if there's not a video on it, then you can't say you didn't resist arrest. And they could write that charge, so that the police are only doing what they know they can do in the system of things. And that's what I think is the greatest push right now, is that this fight is not just over what the so-called police are doing, but what the system is doing. And the system is broken. And this has to, I hate to say it, like that house Negro or field Negro, I'm wishing a strong wind come and burn that house down. I hate to say it. Now, looters loot and protesters protest. I love the strong protest, which is very key. Of course, we don't like to see the looting and the fighting and all the madness, but the protests have become so strong and well needed.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to something Josh said. First of all, I'm not a fan of using the word protest, because that keeps us in duality. It's fighting against each other. It's more about speaking your truth, coming from a place in your heart of your truth, what you know is your truth, and what the universal truth is peace, community, harmony, and equality, and love. What Josh said really hit home about what I don't understand. And I woke up last Sunday here in Nashville, found out what went on after the rally here, and all the looting and everything. And I was angry. I was really angry, and I was sad, and I was angry, and I was sad, and it perpetuated all week. And I was like, what am I sad about? What am I angry about? And what I realized is what I don't understand deep down inside of all of us is hate. Hating another person. I just don't understand it. I understand it intellectually. I don't understand it from my heart space. Why looking at someone because of what they look like, what their color, if they're gay, straight. I just don't understand how anyone in their heart space can hate another person just for what they look like. I don't understand it. And that's what hurts so much, because I'm not that. That doesn't even resonate or come close to what my truth is. And the sadness of it is that it's still going on. The hate, the duality, the fight of it all is still going on. And I just go back to, I remember what my father said to me a long, long time ago. Why can't people just let people be who they are without the judgment? As Evis said earlier, it's fear. You look different than me, therefore I'm frightened. You speak different from me, therefore I'm frightened. So I'm going to stay in my little comfort zone of what I'm comfortable with, my little tribe that supports that comfort zone. But far be it from me to venture outside of that comfort zone to look at someone, people different. Something is different, but it's the fear inside of people that is so overwhelming that turns into, you're different from me, therefore I don't like you. And I just don't understand it. And as we're talking, I'm getting more incensed about this. It's because it just shouldn't. I just don't get it. I just don't get how people can hate another person for what?
And that's half, the problem, Jeff. We do need to be educated about some of these things. And as Charles, sort of mentioned, there is an awareness that needs to happen on this planet. I'm talking, a lot of stuff about this revealing of the toxicity that's been on this planet from day one. It's just as it hasn't happened overnight. We know the racism idea has been on this planet from day one. Here in the land down under, my people only had the right to vote as human beings in the 1960s, man. We were still classified as flora and fauna. All right?
Wow.
So this is what's been going on. This is a revealing and an unveiling of the mask. Listen to the symbols of the mask that needs to come off and reveal the toxicity of this planet so we can move forward. But my thing is, we can't move forward by pulling, like Jeff just mentioned, as what it's done from day one. There's been some ugly stuff that's gone on this planet, and it's finally starting to come to the surface. But the biggest thing, now that we're aware of it, we have to acknowledge it. Yeah, there's no wrong in that, but we have to be educated about it. We just go back to when we were kids. Did we have these filters of what color meant something or color meant something of another race? We didn't have these things. These are taught. These are learnt. So we need to understand these belief systems and where they come from to better educate ourselves and being able to move forward. No, it's not about spiritual bypassing. No, it's not about avoidance, but it's about learning new tools to be able to create and manifest the planet that we really do want to live in. Because at the moment, the way we're trying to create a new planet, it hasn't worked. And we keep falling into the traps, the same old programs, whether it's a health crisis, whether it's a weather crisis, whether it's a racism crisis, whether it's a money crisis. It's time to wake up, smell the salts. I don't know. What do you reckon, Josh?
Yeah, I feel like this is, and after I processed all of my anger and fear, like Jeff was talking about, and it hit my community and literally across the street, the looting, and I watched it and filmed it, and in fact, I even got chased down by one of the looters afterwards, making sure that I didn't shoot his license plate. So there was a confrontation in my alley, and I was sad for all of us. We've had some really rough months, and I could see in his face why he was doing it. It was an opportunity, but it was hard not to feel taken advantage of. Like my little beach community that's, is peaceful was being pillaged, and that created anger. And when I processed that and went through all of that this past week and really sat with it and allowed it to move and flow, exactly like we're all saying, I felt that we're at a doorway, and that this is finally being discussed and talked about, and it's going to create the change that we've all been looking for this time. And I feel, humanity, society is ready, that this is just the last time. It's got to stop.
And what's so just unbelievable to me is just seeing what man truly is at this point. Because we saw the video of the old 75-year-old man getting pushed down by the cops, and the police officers literally just walking over this man. I mean, this is somebody's father, grandfather. There's nobody with any compassion that says, "Hey, that's not right, guys. What are we doing?" Is it us against them? I mean, when it's supposed to be just people who are to be good people, you see all this ugliness rearing its head, and you wonder, where did this come from? Where did all of this hate come from? Is this the people that we call friends? Are these the people that we call associates? Are these the followers on our page that turn into raging, crazy people because of hate? I had no idea that there was so much hate in people and anger in people. It's baffling to me, and to see the police literally just beating people randomly, women and children, and spray painting, spray macing kids, and I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's truly sad, and it tells something about humanity. It says something about where we are, and trying to understand why we're here. And I'm hoping that we can figure out to turn that hate into something else. Turn that hate into love. Turn that hate into understanding. Turn that anger into something else, because we're all pissed off right now, and we're all not happy at seeing oppression. And that's exactly what we're seeing here: oppression, politicians that don't care, authority that doesn't care, our so-called friends that have turned on us and have views of opinions. I had a girl who was on my show the other day, who she sent me a message about something I posted, and she said, "Well, I'm a supporter of that person. Does that mean you want me to delete you too, or you want to delete me too?" I didn't even reply. I said to myself, no, I haven't heard from you anyhow in weeks. We're not friends. You know what I'm saying? So, but it does make you have to define and look in yourself and understand really who's in your circle and who's with you and who ain't with you. And be okay with letting some people go who don't align with your message. I don't want that negative energy around me. I'm about positivity. I'm about goodness. Bottom line.
I'm not about the fight. I'm not about the fight. That's the important thing to look at is where do we want to fight? Why do we want to fight? And what is it within our nervous systems that needs the fight? The opposition, the duality. Why is there duality within us? Where is the duality within us? I don't mean, I'm using the word us as a general term. It's really about, why am I fighting? Why do I need to oppose? To prove that I'm right, to constantly prove that my belief system, which is not the same as our truth, beliefs and truth are two totally different things. So I'm going to fight to be right. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing this collision bouncing off of each other. And it really is that. And I saw it in myself this week. I saw the fight rise within me. I saw my opposition rise within me. I got on social media, which I never do, and I felt it, and I wrote this past Wednesday and published it, remembering the tears in my father's eyes when we were standing at the ruins of the World Trade Center back in 2011. And he looked up and he says, when is all of this going to end? And he had tears streaming down his eyes. And that's my question. My question is, as Evis just said, the old. What's happening now is chaos that's leading to probably a shadow period, a dark night of the soul that we're in. And it's about looking at what is the new that we can begin here. The old is so in place. It's about creating something that's new, but the old needs to be broken down and discarded.
And you know what? And I hate to, I'm jumping for 1 second, but I think that is such a good thing that is going on right now, because we're really seeing that old garb that is holding on to something, right? So when you see some of these leaders who, want to keep some of these statues in place or talking about certain things that you're like, whoa, where did they come up with that? We're really starting to see that it has totally been exposed for what it is. And that really needed to happen. And that's a beautiful thing, that there will be change and that there will be a rebirth of the way people think, and that those people who have those horrible attitudes and way of thinking will be flushed down. Right? They call Karens, they call this one, they call that one. And those people literally won't have the audacity to call the police on a black man because they're walking their dog somewhere where they're not supposed to be walking the dog, and say that the black man is threatening to harm. They won't do that anymore, because they're being exposed for what they should be exposed for. And that hatred needs to be flushed down the toilet. I shouldn't have to, as a businessman who is somewhat successful, have to ride around with my phone wondering how, if I get stopped, I'm going to put my phone so I could record the stop. I shouldn't have to walk down the street in my own neighborhood walking and think, man, should I bring my ID in case I get stopped? Right? We're on a curfew where I live. But what I walk down the block, man, 15 minutes before the curfew, I see folks passing me of the other race, and I say, you know what, I'm headed home, because they will pass 10 of them and come scoop me up. I shouldn't have to think like that.
Charles, I'd like to ask something of you. You've got four children, and I'd like to take us in a new direction in this moment. Two things that come to mind. One is, your children are old enough to comprehend what you may be watching on TV at home if you're picking up news feeds. And I'm curious, as a dad, how do you explain to your children, or have you explained to your children what's going on in this moment? But even leading up to this moment, have you ever had to have that hard conversation to explain to your children why they may have had experiences at school, why they may have encountered their mom or you being harassed or questioned for having not done anything wrong, but perhaps just because of your skin color? And so, because there's a lot of moms and dads out there that right now, whether it doesn't matter what our skin color is, I would hope that we're all having these conversations with our children, because this is truly, when we talk about how we could make a change, how we could influence a change in society, I don't believe it starts in a political system. I believe it starts in our own homes. And beyond that, we then can have the responsibility to take it into our communities. There's two ways to go. We either take it from the grassroots or we take it from the top. And the top hasn't worked so well. So from my perspective, this is where we ought to be going, is from the bottom up, where we can impact change in our home, but we have to be awakened to understand that it's not working. And what's behind hate is wounded souls, is men and women that are angry, that have trauma from their childhoods that they haven't dealt with. And instead of going inward to face their own anger, their own pain, it's easier to transfer it outside of themselves and blame other people for their woes. Doesn't matter what color of skin you are, doesn't matter what race, doesn't matter what sexuality. We all are human beings that have been touched by our own childhood wounds, traumas, pivotal moments. So I want to come back to that question. I've given you some time, Sir Charles, to share your perspective as a dad, as your children's mentor, as your children's number one teacher. How have you stepped in to use this as a moment to educate and teach your children from love and compassion as opposed from fear, hate, and anger? Or have you?
Well, one thing I love about when I hear Evis talk, man, I love hearing him when he talks about his nation. It's such a beautiful thing, and a proud thing to be able to have a nation and be able to represent that nation. So what I teach the kids is to be proud of who and what they are, to know that, there are many things that are created by, Black Americans, to know that there are billionaire Black Americans, to know that there are very talented Black Americans. Of course, it's not about race at all, because their mom is mixed, they're mixed. And I teach them about the Caribbean side. I teach them about the German side, and they don't have any race. They don't know racism, but I want them to be proud of who they are. So one day they can stand up and be proud, young ladies and young men who are going to attribute and contribute to the world, but also understand that this was a fight, and that they will, sad to say, have to fight a little bit harder than the next person, unfortunately, right? Even with the same amount of skills, they're going to have to fight a little bit harder. And so I do try to educate them on certain things.
How do you explain to them what's actually going on in this moment? And have any of them come to you scared, frightened? Have they communicated that to you, especially your older ones?
No. I mean, it's a 9 and 11, or 9 and 12. So I mean, 11. So I mean, but they see what's going on. They see the protest, and I don't have them right now. If I did, I would probably take them out to a peaceful protest just so that they can, or a peaceful march, just so they can just be a part of history. Because I think right now what we're seeing is history, and I would love to have them out there with me, just walking hand in hand, letting them see that, that they have to fight, they have to stand up for what they believe, whatever that might be. They have to make sure that the innocent are not being hurt, that the weak are not taken advantage of, and that they need to have a good and clean heart toward other people. And I do that through spirituality, by trying to teach them about the Most High. I do that through discipline, by being a good father and a good, strong role model and example. Because once again, as we're talking about, it starts at home. There is no, that person is a that, or this person is a that because they're this color or that color. I don't teach hate. I don't teach separation or segregation. I don't teach those things. And once again, I think if we did that, and all these people who we're seeing who are acting up, if it started at home and they didn't teach this hate, these kids would not have learned this hate and continued to have these outbursts and these wild, crazy things that are coming out of these people's mouths.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really happening, and that's really what it is, because hate is learned, hate is taught, and hate is learned. Organically, we're not born of hate. But what is happening right now, and if there is a gift and a lesson in all of this right now, is, as Charles said, through this chaos and through what's happening, people are revealing who they truly are. What's happening right now through this chaos, that everything's coming to the surface, you're seeing who people truly are. You're seeing the truth in everything. And it's really, really being exposed for what it is. People are being exposed for who they truly are. Everything is coming to the surface. So you're moving through a place of transparency, of people revealing who they truly are through all of this. And as Charles says, I'm looking at a lot of people who I know and friends who I never knew. But what's happening, it's the lower will, our lower three chakras, the dense vibration of that is now coming to the surface. And the shadow is being exposed in this world right now. But hate, duality, all of that is taught and learned from a young person, from being a young person. And I'm just so grateful that my father never taught me that. But that's what's happening now. And it's about re-educating young people that, as Josh said earlier, we are all one, and we have to look inside. We're all one, and that's so important. That might be spiritual bypass. I don't know, but that's the only thing we could teach.
Well, I think too, I mean, exactly as Charles, you're saying, when the house burns down, that facade is gone. We all are exposed now. And I think that's what's touching all of us too, is that, that exposure. It's like, wow, how do I feel about this? What is this bringing up in me? There is nowhere to hide anymore. And we are all being forced to be vulnerable on this. And what does that mean? And what do we do with this?
Yep.
And it's a young movement. That's one thing I love to see right now. This is a young movement, man. There's high school, teenagers, man, college people out there. This is a mixed movement. There's more times more Caucasian people out there, man, than there is black people with this movement. And that's the beautiful thing too, as well. It's a couple of older ones here who are holding on to some form of control that they feel that they're about to lose by letting people of color be able to walk free. And it's a beautiful sight in many ways. Of course, we don't like to see the madness, But to see these young ones out here, man, fighting and getting tear gassed and I don't mean fist fighting, but I mean just fighting for what's right. It's a beautiful thing, and that actually makes me proud. You know, there's some people I see right now, even Sherry, you know, one of our good family members over here was out there, you know, doing some walk and posing in front of George Floyd's Muriel, and you know, there's a bunch of people who I see really are just standing up, man, for what's right, and it feels good to know that these people are in our circle, right, and that these people are right there with us in the right frame of mind, thinking about the right thing. So, man, it's a beautiful thing, and I would say this for all, especially, you know, there's some even. And I know, Jay, we talked about that. There are even some religious groups who kind of want to be neutral, and you know, I say that it's not the time to be neutral. You know, God, we all know God or Creator can help change all of this, but until that happens, we have to stand for something.
You know, it's interesting you bringing that up, Charles, because I experienced something just yesterday afternoon. And I've had this experience many times in my young 58 years of living, but it's the first time that I pushed back, and with respect for myself, I set a boundary with a stranger, because we were negotiating in a moment. And after about, you know, we were on the back end of it, he asked me this question. He alluded to the fact, he asked me if I was of Jewish faith. And I knew exactly where he was going with it, because it's not the first time that someone has said to me, alluded to the fact that I negotiate the way I do because I'm a Jewish person. And I went right to him and I said, you know what you just said to me today is no longer okay.
Yeah.
I said, first of all, I was born into a Jewish home. I choose not to practice Jewish faith. I'm a spiritual man today. However, it's not okay what you said to me, because behind that statement, there was prejudice. There was an old belief system that is either you're insinuating that I'm cheap because Jews are cheap, or because I'm a good negotiator because I'm Jewish. And either one I've heard my whole life. And I've never spoken up. I've always just either chuckled or held it in, but I never said no more. Not here, not now. And for the first time in my life, in that moment, just yesterday, I said those words to him, and he apologized to me. And I said, you know what's more important than you apologizing to me? It's that you understand that behind what you said hurts people, and behind what you said helps us all. It impacts us all, and there's no love behind that. And I'm not okay with that anymore. And what he said to me is, I understand, and I'm really sorry. And then at that moment, he threw something in for free. Now that was his way of gesturing to me like he felt bad. And hopefully he got the message, which is that it doesn't matter if you're straight, if you're gay, if you're white, if you're black, if you're of light skin color, if whatever your faith is. It's, from my perspective, how I can help influence change in our communities is by no longer accepting unacceptable behavior. Now, that doesn't mean that I go out and I protest against this guy in a company that he works for. It just means that if I can help educate him and let him know that what he said was hurtful to me, and it's no longer acceptable to me. Now, what he does with it in his life, that's up to him. Hopefully it touched him at his heart space, and it will impact how he treats other people. And he doesn't question if behind their skill set of negotiation is a religion, is a color, is a sexual preference. It has nothing to do with any of that. You know, what it has to do is that some of us show up the way we show up. And it has nothing to do with what he was alluding to. And so I just wanted to share that because, you know, because of what I have been observing from my perspective in the last couple of weeks, it actually inspired me for the first time in my life to speak up and say, no more. This is not okay. It's not okay to be talked to this way. And so, that's how it's impacted me. And that's how I, as a white man, can influence change in my own community by having the courage to say, no, this is not okay. It's hurtful. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Evis, Heath, who's been quiet for some time. I know you've got something on your mind, and I'm going to invite you to go deep, Evis, because from your perspective, I know you're not a fan of protests. You see it from a different perspective. But what are you feeling right now? You've been a great listener tonight, but I'm going to invite you to open up and tell us what's in your heart and what's on your mind right now.
Thanks, my brother. And as always, my brothers, I love listening. I love observing beautiful stories and the way all you brothers, speak your truth. This is what this show's all about. We're all different backgrounds. We've got different probably nationalities within us, but this is the solution. We're coming together. We're discussing, we're educating, and through it, we're able to come with outcomes, hopefully, in the end. But from what I'm listening and what I'm observing, we are moving forward in what we're uncovering, what we're revealing. We still haven't talked about how do we create, like Jay mentioned on the tagline, how do we create this step going forward? On a video I did this week, I talked a little bit about one of the things I used to love doing as a kid, and that was going fishing. Now, I broke it down in that video that one thing when I was going fishing, I didn't really realize, was it about the actual catch? Was it actually about being out in nature? Or was it just the whole idea of the sport of fishing? Whether it was all of those things, probably all those things put together, it would have been a little bit of all. But I broke down a little bit about that whole idea about fishing and what we've been living in. Now, when I used to go fishing, I used to have a line. Back in the day, I used to have a Coke bottle, and I'd wrap that line around that. I'd put my sinker on, I'd put my hook on, and I'd throw it out for those fish. Now, you think about all those fish out in the ocean. Think about us too. We're like those fish, aren't we? All different species, all different colors, but we're all living in the one sea. We're all living in the one ocean, the one vibration. I talked a little bit about how our influence of what we're paying our attention to, what we're seeing out there, what we're focusing on is playing a big part about what we're creating out here in that ocean and what we see. So think about that fishing line. What would that line represent? Well, what I'm hearing in this conversation, that line to me sounds like emotions. It sounds like the feelings. When I think about that hook, I think about what's hooking us. What's hooking us these days in this social media, in this media? It's the headlines, isn't it? It's these headlines that hooks us. So what's that sinker? What's that anchor represent? Well, to me, it's got to represent our body. Because we are in a time where we are revealing these things. But we need to have a look at ourselves physically to anchor ourselves in these current energies. Otherwise, we're going to be blown back and forth, like Jeff said, back and forth, still not moving, and we'll keep recycling, perpetuating these programs like racism, health, natural disasters, and all the above. Now, that line, that fishing line, that needs to be cut. We need to cut these emotions. We need to put down that Coke bottle, that rod. We need to surrender. We need to let go of those things for now. We need to start thinking about what we want to create out in that ocean, in that vibration, in that frequency. Because at the moment, we're creating through survival. We don't want to be in survival mode like those fish out in the ocean. We want to be thriving out in the ocean, don't we? So how do we create? Well, we come together, we discuss these things, but then we come from a place of our imagination. Yeah, imagination. Imagine trying to create from your imagination something so different for a lot of people. Because at the moment, we're paying all of our attention, all of our focus onto the media, onto the news, onto all this other stuff that keeps perpetuating program after program, bait after bait. And guess what? We keep biting the same bait. So I ask you, my brothers and sisters, what sort of fishing line do you want to build? What sort of fish do you want to be out in that ocean? Because we all have an opportunity to express it for our own truth, but we all have to see in that ocean as one and come together to be able to move forward in what we want to see on this planet. So yeah, man, this is in different layers, Jay. It's a whole lot of different layers. And man, you know, this conversation, as like all of our conversations, could keep going on and on. But my thing here, I just want to know how other people think how we're going to create our way out of this. Because on the other side of suppressing all these emotions, dark feelings, and all these trapped lifetime after lifetime recycling is creation itself. And we now have that beautiful time to create. So that's it, my brother.
Yeah, and real quick too as well. You know, to that point you were talking about, Jay. You know, I'm a fighter for what's right. You know, one of my favorite movies is Schindler's List, and I've watched that so many times, man, because just what was done to that culture and race of people was just horrendous. It could have been done to the Native Americans. I'm going to feel that compassion. It could have been done to the Aboriginals. I'm gonna feel that compassion. You know, so it's not just I'm looking at it from a black standpoint. You know, and we've talked about many things on this show. You know, I just want to know what's inside of people that allow someone to teach their children something, allow someone to call, you know, another race bad names in front of children, or teach them how to act in a certain way. You know, where's the quality in that person? We all try and strive to be the best people that we can be. I don't understand how everybody doesn't fight to do just that. I mean, it baffles me how you don't strive to be the best person that you can be, and to teach your loved ones to be the best person that you can be. So hopefully, man, this is the start of a lot of this healing and a lot of this change, because it's got to happen. It's got to happen.
You know, I just want to jump in with what Jay talked about, and standing up for his truth within him. One step further would have been to ask that, and this is exactly what I hear you saying, Charles, is saying to that gentleman, where did you learn that? Where did you learn that? Who taught you that? Standing up for yourself, standing your truth with love. This is not acceptable. Here's my boundaries. But I have one more question. Who taught you that? Where did you learn that? And that's the question we have to ask. Where did you learn to hate? Who taught you that? What did you learn? And that's the whole thing. And that's what I think you're saying, Charles. It's how did you learn this? And that's what we go back to programming and conditioning. It's all taught. It's all learned. It's a belief system of what you think you should believe. Your father taught it to you. Your mother taught it to you. And that would be, I'd love to find out the answer to that question, Jay. Who taught you this, sir? Who taught you this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Jeff, because from my perspective, when I was in that moment yesterday, it really didn't matter who taught him that. What matters is that I touched him, and maybe I opened his heart to change, because I had just spent an hour and a half with this man. And it was less important where the hate came from. But what is most important is that if I could open his heart to love and to see that I'm no different than he is. And maybe that's enough today. You know, maybe me having the courage to not speak with him with disrespect, but just with a loving boundary for myself. And to say what I said, which is, you know, with everything going on right now, this is not okay. And I told him this is the first time I'm speaking up in my 58 young years. But I said, no more. No more will I hold quiet.
Now,
And-
Jay, was that because of what's going on now, or where did that?
That's what I was curious too. If everything now has gave you that power,
Absolutely, 100%.
Wow.
It was, I have, and keep in mind, I'm a person who doesn't have a TV in my home. I once had 7, and I don't have one. So what I'm picking up is strictly from a minimal social feed on social media.
Yeah.
Is the energy field that I'm playing off of. And when I've had enough, I just stop. I stop scrolling. I've had to learn how to manage that for myself, because watching the news and watching, you know, it's not even news. It's just people's opinions. It's people that are just wanting to influence our thoughts and our belief systems. And I choose not to live in that world anymore. I choose to live in the world of love and compassion and nature, and connecting with myself and connecting with others in a loving way. And so, you know, I was totally influenced by what's going on. I've got a number of men in my life today that are a part of my inner circle that are not the same color as I am. You know, and actually two men that have had some of the greatest influences in my life in the last 5 years, my 2 number 1 spiritual mentors are men of color. And I didn't even realize that until just a few days ago. And it hit me. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like the 2 men that when I go to my teaching, the lessons that I want to learn on spirituality and how I want to continue to grow and learn and be a better person than I had been in the past. These are men of color that have the greatest influence on my life today from a spiritual perspective. And you know what? I am so grateful for that. I am grateful that I didn't grow up in a home where I was taught to hate people of color, to hate people of different sexual orientation. And so I'm grateful that I didn't have to fight within myself to overcome that level of prejudice and hate and hurt for others. Now, I did have to overcome that within myself for myself, because I did have that. I had hate for me. I did have prejudice for me. I did have hurt for me. But, you know, through the process of healing my own mind, body, and soul, I got to come home to me, to myself, at the soul or heart level. And through that process, I got to experience what true love can feel like, self-love. And perhaps maybe that's where we can all make a difference as men and women in a community, is by, instead of trying to influence first change outside of ourselves, let's spend some time each day by focusing on healing our own inner wounds from our childhoods, so that we can all come home first to ourselves and experience what true, authentic, unconditional love can feel like for ourselves, so that we then can share it and connect, as all 5 of us men are doing, not only tonight, but we have been doing since we launched Real Men, Real Talk Live. I am going to allow us to go over the 1 hour mark tonight.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yes. Yes. I was going to say the same thing too. Let's do it.
I was waiting till you were finished. I was going to say the same thing. And I was going to suggest, I would love to pull on one of the people who are out here, just to hear from them too as well. If there's somebody who would love to jump in and just say one thing about what's going on. I would love, we got a lot of support out here. I would love to have one of our friends out here share something. I would love to pull somebody on. So if somebody wants to jump on, please put a number 1 in the chat room. If you want to get in here and share something with us, we would love to hear from you. Sherry, I know Sherry wouldn't mind jumping in here.
Yeah. I love to how I just want to touch back on you, Jay, and the courage that this gave you to set your boundaries and say no. And I think, man, what a powerful thing to have all of this empower all of us to stand up for our beliefs and ourselves and say no. For people stepping on our emotions or overstepping bounds where they shouldn't. And maybe as a society right now, we're just saying no to hate in general. No, stop this cycle of bad feelings and thinking it's okay to create bad feelings in other, or taking our angers and frustrations and those old wounds that we have out on someone else outside of us. And like you were saying, it's time to come home and look in. And it's and I know all of us here have done it, stopping and looking within and shining a light in those dark corners is hard. And it's not hard. It can be frightening, it can be scary, and it can be very new, but we can. There are 5 people here on this panel who have done it, and you can get through it, and it's okay. And breaking down those walls in ourselves, those old beliefs, those old stories, those things that are driving the show, that are creating these reactions in us. I just feel like this is such a beautiful opportunity for everyone right now. Every single one of us can pause and look inward in this moment and say, what don't I like? What can I change? What do I have the power to say no to? And what is it that I stand for?
Exactly. And I'm going to go back to Jay again. I think what Jay is a proxy for and demonstrating, and I found this week in myself, is we're finding our voice. We're finding our voice not to defend ourselves, because that's what's happening. It's not about I have to defend myself. It's I know who I am. I love who I am. I honor who I am. I wasn't taught hate. I was taught love. And now I'm going to fully express to you how I feel and how this makes me feel. I know this week from this, I'm finding more of a voice in myself and expressing that voice more deeply and truthfully out in the world, and doing my best to do it with as much love as I can. And I think that's what's really happening. And one of the things that's happening is people are finally realizing I have a voice, and that voice is important. Everybody's voice is important. Everybody matters. Everybody's voice, what they have to express, and who they are matters in this world. What I have to say, what Charles has to say, what Evis has to say, what Jay has to say, what Josh has to say is all important and should be heard and must be heard. If it's coming from a place of love and we're speaking our truth and we're not fighting to be right or defending anything. What's really happening, and I think Charles said this earlier, is that when the old is threatened, and we can each look at ourselves and say, when our old behaviors are threatened, we're all going to go into defense and fight to the death to keep that old in place. And what we're seeing in the macrocosm through our microcosm is the old is really being threatened here. So the people that are trying to hold that old in place are going to fight to death to keep that old in place, because that's the only thing they know. That's their comfort zone. And Jay, what you said is like, my old is gone. I'm going to now speak my truth from my heart with love, not defending myself, but because I love myself and I know who I am. And this boundary is what you are saying is no longer acceptable, but we have to do it from a place of love and a place of caring and knowing who we are, as opposed to fighting, defending, and protesting. That raises the resonance and vibration of ourselves and the collective. And that's really what's happening. And I see that. And that's where we can stay and hold on to that.
Powerful, Jeff. Powerful.
Beautiful, Jeff.
Beautiful.
Sending from ear to ear, Jeff.
Well, we have a guest I'd like to welcome into the studio with us.
Hey, Emily.
Emily Bryan. Welcome.
We
Can you
see
hear us, Emily?
Emily, can you turn your audio on?
Emily, you're here. Emily, you're here in real time.
We're gonna take you out. Can you hear?
Go.
We might need to
We
somebody
may
else.
take you out and see if you can work on your audio, and we'll in the studio and we'll bring in another guest right now. See what you can do to work on that. We're going to bring in Sherry New, coming in from the United States. And Charles, I'm going to turn this over to you, because you invited guests to come in, and I'm going to ask you to, from your perspective, to run with us.
Sherry is my sister, and a beautiful soul of a person. And we've had some great times together. And Sherry, what are you feeling right now regarding some of the things that are going on? What are you feeling regarding some of the things going on, Sherry?
Jay.
What do I feel about what's going on? You saw me down on my knees in front of the boy's girl on Steve's wall down there in the third ward, where I'm probably the only white girl down there, and I don't care, because I'm not safe. I know you with good people, because I met up with you, and I was literally on my knees praying for peace. So peace, not all this other garbage that we can see across the country with people writing and listening. And like I said, for decades, we have said that people don't get it.
Sherry, I'm gonna ask you to hold for one moment. It was very difficult to hear you. I don't know if you have a device in the room nearby, you can turn that volume off, and only have the device on that you're in the studio with us on. We're getting way too much feedback, and we're not able to hear a thing you're saying. See if you're able to bring everything, all your volume down to zero. Let's try that again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay,
That's better.
I'm sorry, I had a Bluetooth on so my deaf self could hear you. Okay, so you asked me how I felt about what's going on in our country, right? And I'm on blood pressure medication, and by the time I got to the doctor that day, it was up. I went down to the third ward, where it's predominantly African American, and I'm not scared to go there because I have friends there. A friend I met through Charles, who owns a shop there. And I went to not just pay my respects for a man who had died, because, you know, things are coming out that he was a criminal, but to pray for peace in Houston, because he was coming here to be laid to rest. And I had seen what had gone on across the country. which for decades has not been working. And people are just making fools out of themselves. And I got down on my knees. I have complex regional pain syndrome. That was not an easy thing for me to do, but I had to make that point. I had to go down there and I had to say, please stop. Stop it now. Stop it here. I was interviewed by the news. It didn't make the news because there was a march that day for the family. But I said exactly that. Stop the violence. I don't see color. I don't see any of that. So pray for peace. That's all I want. I love you guys. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us so much. Thank you so much. We have a few other members from our audience in the community that would like to, if you'd like to come in, let us know, and we will bring you into the room with us, into the studio with us. Josh, what do you think about what Sherry just had to say?
I love it. I'm just sort of beaming from all of this. The fact that we're bringing people in, we're listening, we're hearing what they have to say, and that we're going over, and we're just doing this thing, and we're going to ride this baby home because it's that important. It's that important. And I'm in it 100% with you guys. I'll go the next 3 hours if we have to, because it's that important.
Thank you, Josh. Emily Bryce coming in from Payson, Arizona. If you could unmute, let's try this one more time, see if we're able to get your audio up. Not able to. Em, can you possibly get we need your camera on and your audio. We also had Susan DeBosi that put a number 1 up there. She'd like to come in. Suzanne, I sent you a link on your messenger. If you could pick that up, if you'd still like to join us, you're welcome to do just that. Charles, we don't hear you. You're on mute right now. So if you want to unmute yourself.
I said I'd like to see Brandy join the party over here and say something, you know. Come on, Brandy. Stop being shy over there. And Suzanne, yeah, he sent you something to join in.
And while we're bringing some people on, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who watches the show, who believes in the show, have supported us. Your likes and shares and all of that means so much to all of us. So thank you all.
All right, Emily, you ready? Emily, you got Wi-Fi in that house?
You're on.
Looks like
I want to hear so bad what Emily has to say.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she'll get it sorted out. In the meantime, I did send a link over to Brandy as well to join us, and anyone else.
Well, Donna, I would love to hear Donna. Donna's a good friend of mine. I haven't seen her in a minute. Donna, I'd love for you to share, because Donna has interracial grandchildren and is a lawyer from New York. I'd love to hear what Donna has to say. So jump in here.
While we're waiting, could I add something, guys?
Sure.
I'm going to go back to Jay when Jay mentioned his mentors, and for me personally, my mentor Mario Cabrera's photographer in New York. As Jay said that, I never realized that Mario was a Black Cuban until right this very moment. I mean, I when I looked at him, I was like, yeah. And in my life, and I'm so grateful that I was brought up with this, it was Mario. And I never really thought of it. And I'm thinking about all of the people that I know. It's like, it's Mario. Who cares what he looks like? I mean, I look like, you know, and he looks like he looks like. And Jay just saying that, I just really, after all of that was the late 80s, and I'm like, oh wow, my mentor. Without him, I wouldn't know what I know as a photographer. Without him being on this, gracing his presence in my life, who taught me so much. I never realized to this moment that Mario was a Black Cuban unless he told me that. And that's just been my life, and that's why this is very challenging for me to understand. Is when you see a person, you maybe see what they look like. If that matters to you, good for you. But it's always about seeing through their heart, their who they are, what they are, what they're saying to me. Something so deep beneath that I never, I swear I've never, ever, it never was, it just didn't, I never saw it. I just never saw it. I just saw another person who, that, well, you know what? I have brown hair and he has blonde hair. That's the thing that I'm getting to, is that why do people see this? And why does it matter to them? Why do people see this, and why does it matter to them? I'm going to say it again and ask that question again. Why do people, folks out there who are watching this, why do you see this? How do you see this? And why the hell does it matter to you? What someone looks like, what someone's sexual preferences are, why, what's within you that really, really and truly matters to you. What should matter to you, and I know there's no should, but what should matter to you is what's in their heart, what they're saying, what they're expressing. See through that into the depth of their heart with love. That is what's really, really important. And that's how I do my best to live my life. It's about seeing through the essence to the soul.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Jeff Fasano. Bringing you home from Nashville, Tennessee, Jeff Fasano. I want to give them, what's that, Charles?
Real quick, Jay. And I want to, I don't know, Jay, can you remember when the first time you experienced racism? Especially, or Evis, can you remember the first time?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass that to Evis right now. I think he said he was at least 6 years old, but go ahead, Ev.
Go on, brothers. How long have we got tonight?
Just give me your first experience, and I'll give you mine.
Brother, when I actually really started to experience racism for the first time, I was probably 8 years old to understand it. And I was down at a sporting camp, just to give you a quick background, and I was staying over. It was over a weekend, and I remembered just about going to sleep, and all of the other kids in the room started speaking Aboriginal jokes. And I remember being on the bottom bunk, man, of one of those beds, and how badly I wanted just to go and open up a can of whip ass. You know how bad it felt, man? But then to hold on to that later, and that play with certain aspects of me questioning myself, your identity, and all that other stuff that comes along with it. But I was so lucky and fortunate that I had, elders around me that taught me to be so proud about my culture. So it was more so, okay, I may not have done anything at that point, but when I started to actually experience racism as I got older, I started to actually see that it truly wasn't about me. It was actually about them. So being able to educate these people and pull them up, man, I've been, called Black CUNT and every other thing on a soccer field and all of that stuff. I've actually gone to the papers and actually made that person apologize. So there's ways of doing it. We don't have to push it, the anger, and keep going on this continuous battle. But it's truly the education. That was probably the first time I really experienced it, brother. What about yourself?
Same age as you, brother. It was 8 years old. I moved into Long Island, New York, which was back then all pretty much Italians and Irish people and stuff like that. And I literally was it was like a creek in my backyard, and I'm walking through my back creek, the creek through my yard, thinking everything is good, man, and walk past two Caucasian men and young guys, around my age, a little bit older, and all of a sudden, as I'm passing them, I hear the N-word, and literally they start chasing me. And I just ran and had to run, and I'm just like, and coming from Brooklyn, I didn't know anything about racism or prejudice, and that was the first dip into racism, and it's
And
just,
how,
you know.
sorry, brother, and how did that make you feel? That was very similar to my experience where I didn't do anything about it. You ran away from it. Did it come again up in your life for you to actually start, working through it?
Well, once again, Long Island, because even if you saw some of the marching going on right now in Merrick, Long Island, you've got those people walking and marching, and you got the people who own the pizzerias, get the F out of here, and all this kind of stuff like that, and it's just so it was always some underlining thing in Long Island. My thing, and I'll let Emily jump in, is I'm trying to understand how these so-called Christians are the ones doing a lot of this, and how do you claim the love of God that you can't see and despise your brother that you do see? So I'm just I'll let Emily jump in here and say what she wants to say.
Hi guys.
Hi, Emily.
I just think it's beautiful that no matter what color we are, we're all sitting here, and if we close our eyes, seriously, everyone just close their eyes just for a moment. We don't see color. We just are. And it's beautiful. There is no walls anymore that are keeping us from connecting. Social media has, in the last 3 months, brought us together more than any kind of connection we've ever had, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. It's magical. It's very emotional to feel this much energy with so many people from all over the world. I'm sitting in Arizona, and you guys are all over the world, and I can feel you. So no matter what color we are, no matter what sex we are, no matter who we sleep with at night, when you close your eyes at night, none of that matters. And that sense of being is how we should carry on throughout our whole day. It's just be in the moment. And when you're in the moment, you're seeing that, well, I'm safe. I'm in my own home right now. If I choose to go be violence against violence, that's my own choice. So we have our own choice to be peaceful, be love, be connected. We also have the choice to be angry, be violent, and be hurtful. It's our choice at the very end of the night when we lay our head down, if we even get the chance to lay our head down. What is it the next very moment that you want to bring into the next day? Is it going to be, if you are going to bed hateful, do you want to wake up with that same hate? Or do you want to wake up with a new set of eyes, a new way of looking at the world and seeing that nothing in this world separates us? We are all one. No matter where we come from, no matter what we look like, we're all one. And this is the first time actually getting a whole live talk with you guys, and it was magical. The energy is just wow.
Hey,
So
Emily,
I just had to share.
Thank you, Emily.
can I ask Emily,
Beautiful.
was this something, Emily, that because I love your spirit, was this something that your parents instilled in you, or is this something that you kind of learned as you grew older? Unmute.
My you guys want to know my first racial experience of what even race was I was raised up in a farm country in upstate New York by Canada, and I went to school, and after school there was this just this community get together, and I'm playing in the sandbox, and I'm gonna get emotional because this is what changed my whole way of thinking. he ripped me out of the sandbox and he said, "Get away from the N-word." And I was just like, "What do you mean?" And I just thought, like, I'm looking around thinking, what's scary around me? I'm not seeing anything scary. Why is he acting like this? And my dad was very racist, and it scared me because that was the day that I went against my family beliefs, and I thought that I was wrong for loving anybody for everything that they were, no matter what they looked like. And as growing up in a really racist family, it was very difficult to be myself because I was shunned because I didn't believe what they believed in. I have an interracial child. I have a Native American son who I love with every bit of my being. I don't say this is my Native American son, this is my white son. We're just family. And I took that way of thinking as a child to not believe what my parents thought, because sometimes they're not right. Sometimes they were, but not about hate. They were never right about hate. And so I had to make that decision in my life with my children to never ever say, look at that Mexican or that black or that Asian or that white. It was just, hey, can you go get your friend? Or can you please, just, there's no colors, there's no racism with my children. I had to break that cycle. And it was very difficult because everyone around me was breaking the mold and doing what mom and dad was doing. And I just said, you know what? Screw what they're doing. It's not right. And I felt it in my core to never just think how they were thinking, and gave my own way of thinking to myself.
Bless you for your courage to
Mm.
be so beautiful.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah.
You're a model for us all, Emily.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining in.
So glad you got to come in.
Yeah, no, finally.
I know, it's great. Beautiful. Beautiful. And you teared me up there for a bit. So thank you for touching my heart.
Josh, if I may ask you, what is it that she said that got you at your heart space? That got you teary-eyed?
You know, it was her conviction, her passion, and her love for all humanity, and that oneness. That's what got me, is when after closing our eyes and just listening to your voice and listening to the words coming from you, a soul, a being, a person, regardless of what we see here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
That got me. Thank you.
Yeah. What I loved, Emily, was asking us to close our eyes, but I don't see my son, my children as this or that. They're who they are. They're who they are. You know, they look like they're just who they are. It's not about what they look like, or it's like this. These are who they are, and that's what's really important. It's their heart. It's who they are, their energy and their essence. It's not about the package. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that, because it's not. I still don't understand that, why that matters, but I hear you, and that was beautiful. And I love the exercise that I think we all should do starting now. Close your eyes, and you won't see who they look like. And then you can feel a person and feel through their heart. It doesn't have to be visual. Great exercise. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Evis, I'd like to ask you, how are you receiving this conversation?
Absolutely beautiful, brother. Absolutely beautiful. And thanks, sister. Like it just that beautiful divine feminine touch that can come in and soften the edges of some of this discussion, and something so subtle like that exercise that Em's just given to us. I mean, that's just pure magic. I do a little bit of a similar exercise with people where I get them to, look themselves in the mirror and say their name verbally. And I then get them to look themselves in the mirror and actually say their name without verbally saying it. And I always say to them, that's who you are. Because like I'm saying, this body, it is part of who we are, but it is not who we are. We are at its very essence, that spiritual being that's getting this beautiful experience in this body. And through these discussions like we're having today, now getting the opportunity to finally experience what it is to really feel down here on planet Earth. So thanks, Em. That's absolutely beautiful.
I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge Em and thank her for joining us and having the courage to step into the show with 5 men. And what I love about this moment is that she trusted us. She trusted us enough to be willing to come in. And so thank you for that, Em.
Well, Jay, we might look like men, but we're all one.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
We're all energy. We all have our energy. And Emily, yeah.
What are you feeling, Jeff? Go ahead.
Just this great love. Seeing her express herself, seeing us express ourselves, being in this place that's so raw and real, and I'm just touched by. I'm feeling my heart open more and more, but I'm just so sad and feeling into a collective right now. But I just loved closing our eyes and feeling each other. And I'm just feeling right now. I don't know what I'm just feeling. A tenderness, a voice, who we are, now what we look like. What's really happening is, and this goes back to the very first time we did this, when Evis said, Jeff, you're coming home to yourself. Wow. And that still touches me so deeply. And that's what's touching me so deeply now, is coming home to the depth of who we truly are, and not what we look like. Why does that matter? But coming home to a place that the essence of who we are is love. The essence of who we are is peace and harmony and equality. And I'm just so tired of everything else. And just to come home to that place and realize that we are one, and look at that. Look into the essence of someone. Look into their eyes. Look into their soul. Listen to what they have to say. And that's, damn, that's so important.
And
Wow.
Let me jump in for a second too. I think, and I'm speaking probably for Evis too as well, is that this time feels good for me, because I see people who may not have the same skin complexion as me, who are touched, who are fighting, who are feeling the same feelings. So when I was called that bad, nasty word back when I was young, we really had no abilities to fight or speak up. And now we're drawn together, and I'm seeing people who may not look like me out here fighting for people who look like me, whether they were had a criminal past, or whether they did this, or whether they did that. They're fighting for us. We're fighting for each other. And we're having this conversation. And we've been brought together now as one, as brothers, and not worrying about the color, the ethnicity, whether you're Jew, Muslim, Black, whatever it may be, Sikh, Arab. So for me, this is a beautiful moment. And through all of this, I think that's going to bring us together in that moment, in this moment, that we don't have to be separated by color, that we're brothers and we're sisters, and that the cream is going to rise to the top. And it's a beautiful time that we've got people here. We're all talking, we're all bonding, we're all loving. So I love this moment. Thank you, brothers.
Mm.
It's beautiful, Charles. I love it too. I feel the groundswell this time. I feel the energy behind all of us. I feel that it finally will change, and that we're doing it. It's happening. It's now. And I'm getting chills just right now, just saying that, because I feel it so strongly that now is the time. And I love that we're all here, just being real with ourselves and with each other, and celebrating in that, maybe it's that society for so long tried to fit in, which meant denying who we are or what's right, and that fitting in, like teasing a kid on the on the playground, and all the other kids join in, is to feel like you fit in. And now is the time that we're saying, no, uniqueness is beautiful. And even though we want to celebrate that uniqueness in all of us, because we're all special, we're all different, we're all put here for a reason. But in that uniqueness, knowing that at the core, we are all one. And yeah, today we are one. And from now on. I love that. Emily wants to jump in.
No, I was
Beautiful,
just
Josh. Beautiful, my
the
brother.
number one up. We are one.
We are
And
one.
what's really magical about this time that we're sharing with each other is, I didn't know that we could connect so much. I didn't connect this much even interpersonally in this technology that I try to stay away from and not transition. I was fighting myself to have this connection with everyone. And I'm ready for it. And I think the awakened people are connecting because we see each other. We always did, but we didn't connect this much. And it's together we can move mountains, and we can be the change for the next generation. And we can shine so bright that people are going to want to mimic this instead of anger and violence. They're going to want to mimic love and togetherness and unity. And it's the best word is magical.
Love that.
Amen.
I've sent a link to Russ Birchfeld, who has requested to come into the studio. So Russ, if you're still with us, please check your messenger link, and hopefully you could join us. I know I'm interested to hear what you have to say, coming in from Atlanta, Georgia. So please pick up your messenger link and join us in this conversation.
Until the philosophy which hold one race superior and another inferior has been toppled, totally destroyed, until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. Got to say war,
Yes,
My man.
I love it. Sir Charles.
Yes, 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 yes. This is I love this show, man. I just what we're doing here, guys, is really, I mean, honestly, every time I talk to somebody, they're like, man, I love that show. I love that show. I love that show. I'm like, man, all right, I mean, I get it, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So, Brandy, we're waiting on you too. You know,
You
Em, I'm
know,
going to drop you
yeah,
out of
Kelly.
the show.
I remember
See,
guys back in I don't know if this is appropriate, but back in 2008 in New York City, I was working photo documenting Cat on a Hudson Roof on Broadway for 6 months, and it was an all African American cast. And once again, I mean, it was one of the highlights of my entire 62 years on this earth of being a part of that for 6 months. It changed the face of Broadway. But I remember being in a room one night, and one of the actors, I forget who it was, walks over to me and said, "Hey, Jeff, you're the only white guy in this room." And I went, and he didn't say it. I mean, I know I remember the actor who said it to me, and I never noticed it. I just never. I just went, and he wasn't. It's just something that just popped into my head that it wasn't anything that mattered to me.
love that. I want to see. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
It just like, and I looked at him and I said, well, I laughed and I went, wow. I said, I didn't even notice that. And it doesn't matter to me at all. That's my point. Once again, why would it matter? Why would it matter to anybody?
And today it doesn't. So beautiful.
I think we got a troll. Is it this Brian?
While we're waiting for Russ, I just wanted to reel too, since we obviously are talking about how we feel, but we're also talking about that movement towards change, and say that we put on our homepage, realmenrealtalklive.com, Airbnb, a couple of employees at Airbnb, and I wish I knew their names and I could plug them right now. But I looked for it before we came live, but they came up with a beautiful document on how you can get involved, things you can sign, places you can donate. So if you're feeling the emotional charge tonight, like we all are, there is action you can take, and this document outlines it so beautifully. So we put it on our homepage, and you can download that Airbnb document. We give them full credit because it's absolutely beautiful, what they've pulled together, and it's a powerful, powerful place to launch from and take action from. So I just wanted to say real quick, we've put that on our homepage, realmenrealtalklive.com.
Nice. Hey, Jay, check the private message.
Yep, I got it. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to do is, I'm not sure if Russ has got the message or not. I sent them a private text as well. But what I'd like to do with in this moment is perhaps ask you guys. Actually, we got Russ coming in. Here we go. All right. Welcome, Russ Hirschfeld.
Sherry Olsen, come on in here too as well.
Beautiful.
Charles, we are limited to 6 in a room, but we can always have someone in the green room waiting. So those that want to join us, put a number 1 in there, and we'll bring them in.
Thanks for joining, Ross. Thanks for joining, brother. What are you getting from the conversation tonight, my man?
Hey, Ross.
I feel like I've waited my whole life to have this conversation.
Wow.
You know, like from very young, I think was spiritual and wanted God and wanted to be connected, but I grew up in a bit of a racist home. I grew up with some things that I didn't understand. It didn't gel with me. You You know, I remember watching the Jeffersons and get those goddamn off the TV. You know, and how that went through me, and how it just seemed crazy. I mean, my family origins right here in Atlanta, the Deep South, and there's racism. I have that in my family and my grandparents, and so I've had to navigate my own watered down version of racism. You know, not wanting to acknowledge it myself, and I was taught out of fear. You know, don't trust, don't this, blah blah, violent, whatever. I was just told a bunch of nonsense. So I've had to work through my own kind of upbringing, my own stuff. So I kind of wanted to, I love the broadcast. I'm loving what everybody's bringing. And I'm not saying this in a separation sense, but I want to acknowledge color. I want to acknowledge you, Charles, as a Black man and what you've had to face that I haven't had to face. I've had white privilege and not really even known it. I don't want to blow over the top of all this. Like in the recovery community, it's like, in order to make amends, you have to, like, you know, what can I do differently? You don't just say, I'm sorry, and move on. I really don't want to blow over the top of kind of deep spiritual work that can be done. And we have never made amends for slavery. We've never made amends for killing 90% of Native American population. We've never dealt with this, really. And we have an opportunity to really go deep. And I say that I want to acknowledge your color, not as a separation, but as in, I don't know what your experience is. I really don't. I could make up what it might be like, but I don't really know. To put myself aside and to put my comfort out of the way and not make it about me, to listen. I think what I know is my fear. What I know is what I've been told growing up, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I can still get angry. I saw that video of that man, and I wanted to get mad at all cops. I wanted to throw a tantrum. I think it's just so painful. And yet I know I have a little comedian in me. I pretend like I'm woke, but I still want to take naps. You know, I still want to, like, and now I have to confront when I want to take a nap, you know, I say that jokingly, but there's a little something to even watching that. I've always wanted to matter. Maybe part of my spiritual growth and my upbringing is I have dealt with a lot of shame, and I hated myself for a very long time. So I don't need to figure it all out, but I do have empathy. I do have love. I've waited my whole life for this. Thank you.
Wow.
It's beautiful, Ross.
Wow, yeah. Russ.
Yeah. Thank you, Russ. Yeah, thank you, Russ.
Charles,
yeah.
I was going to ask you, as you're sitting here listening to Russ share his truth, come from his heart space and from his reality as a young child growing up in a community, in a home that you had to navigate through racism. How is it for you to listen to him open up his heart right now and share how he's a changed man and how he wants to continue to listen and learn and speak less so that he could feel the empathy at the soul level and be able to understand and accept all people? How does it for you to receive this from Russ tonight?
It's deep, Russ. Thank you. And I know that it must be tough because, you know, when you grow up in something, because like I said, I grew up in Long Island and, you know, these were, like I said, straight Italians, Irish. And this was, you know, in a time frame, in a time period where, you know, they were what they were. And I was to them, this outside person. I was literally probably two black people in my whole neighborhood. So I know that what you're dealing with, Russ, and what you've overcome is not easy because if you're hearing this on a daily basis, if you're seeing this, this is what you know. And, you know, one thing about me is that, you know, I've been fortunate because, you know, like Evis, I might be a little bit lighter than some other blacks. Um, so I didn't get it as bad. I don't think I get it as bad sometimes. And I never wanted any, you know, I never looked for anything. Well, you know, I'm black. I need this, or I, you know, I'm no. I never use that as a crutch. You know, I just think that it hurts me that we just can't just, you know, just treat each other the way we want to be treated. You know, the other day I said something on Twitter. Somebody had said something about Michael Vick, and I guess he's, you know, against Michael Vick and the way he treated the dog. But it's literally I've seen the way they've treated people out here are worse than dogs. But yet you have people who will attack Michael Vick
Yep.
the way he treated the dog, but we can push an old 75-year-old white man who was bringing back a cop's helmet down and bleeding out of his ears. He can literally choke somebody or kill someone, and people just stand by. So I just think that, you know, it is a class race. This is about just dignity and self-respect and you know, it's time to move on and not even look at race. And you know, I remember, you know, one of my parents had said to me, and racism comes from even your own kind at times. They had said to me, man, they didn't want to see me bring some black girl home, and I was like, man, you know, so that was prejudice to me. That was racist to me. And so you have to, you know, look at that out. As soon as they said that, I'm like, man, that's a terrible thing to say. I realized it, I understood it right away. I didn't agree with it. So it even comes from inside our own at times. So we got to be big enough and smart enough to understand that. Once again, if we call ourselves loving a higher power, how could we say we love a higher power that we can't see and hate our brothers that's right in front of our face? So that's all I got to say.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Mm.
Can't top that. It's beautiful.
Russ, I'd like to thank you for
Yeah.
jumping in. Unfortunately, we are maxed out at 6, and actually we just lost. We had someone waiting in the green room, and she it appears as though she got either she got knocked out or she got impatient. I think it was
Say she's trying to get in.
she's trying to get back in.
Yeah, Sherry Olsen.
There it is. We got Brandy too. Russ, hold on, Russ. I'm going to invite you just to say some closing thoughts and
Thank you, Russ.
join
Thank
us.
you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Russ.
Appreciate you, Russ.
Yes.
Your honesty,
Thanks, Russ.
your vulnerability. Amazing.
Mm.
There we go. Brandy, thank you so much for joining us, having the courage to step
Brandy.
into the studio.
Hey, Brandy.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Brandy, what's been your take on tonight's discussion? Some powerful words going down here.
I just want to say that I absolutely love you guys coming together and talking about this, because this is such a important subject to me, especially having a biracial son. and dealing with some of the people I have in my past and seeing how firsthand that they are treated differently than others just based off of color of their skin, which has always bothered me. And I stand up for equality, stand up for everybody. You know, I'm all about love, loving your friends, loving those people, and just everybody being created, or everyone being treated equally.
Love it.
Yeah. It. I always loved that my parents actually did teach me from a very young age to treat everybody the same. I remember as a young girl, my parents would take like me and my sister to the store and say, you know, you can pick out one Barbie or one baby doll. And I would always go for that black Barbie. My little sister every single time would go for, you know, the blonde hair, blue-eyed one. But I always went for that black Barbie, that black baby doll. Just because I thought they were beautiful. I love different people. You know, I love different cultures. I love to travel and see and experience different cultures because I know every single person has something special that they do and for other people. So that love is just very important to me.
Beautiful, Brandy.
Love it.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, like I mentioned before, I do have a biracial.
Keep loving them black men.
He is half black.
Keep loving them black men.
And, you know, because I mean, I've studied like Harriet Tubman. I've done reports on her before, and you know, when you dig deep into history and just see how much people had endured just because they have different skin, I mean, it was heart-wrenching, even at such a young age. So since then, I've always been able to notice all the little different things that other people don't. You know, I remember one time a friend of mine had come into town and I was driving him back to the airport. And I was going along the highway and there was about maybe like 5-6 cars all in a group going the exact same speed. And of course, we all passed a cop car. And guess who was the one that got pulled over in that group of cars right there? It was me. And I didn't think anything of it until my friend goes, do you know that we're the only car with a black person in there? He goes, I guarantee that's exactly why we got pulled over. And sadly, I believe that he is correct. So, I mean, just the differences are just heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking.
And even with
I love that.
Your mixed child, Freddie. What is his thoughts on some of the stuff going on right now?
He follows it. He's actually up in Iowa with his dad for the summer. And they are a very outspoken black family. You know, they're all about, you know, equality as well. And he can see both sides of it. And it's sad. He's like, you know, I used to walk to the store by myself to go, you know, grab a drink or a snack. And he goes, I'm scared to walk by myself now. He goes, I won't do it anymore. And it's sad that my son has to be scared to walk across the street just because of the color of his skin. So, I mean, he notices, he great notice in it. And it even makes him sad. You know, he told me that he hated it.
Thank you, young lady.
And
terrible.
so,
Yeah.
All right. Do we got anybody else, Jay? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you,
Brandy. Thank you, Brandy.
Brandy. Thank you for being with us. At this point, we're trying to get Sherry Olson in, but she's not in the green room waiting. Not sure what the challenge is. While we wait for her, what I'd like to do, if she makes it beautiful, if she doesn't, perhaps maybe in a future episode, What I'd like to do is invite each one of you, gentlemen, to please take 2 minutes each and perhaps share some of your closing thoughts and or one tip on how we can all make a difference in our homes and in our communities. With that, I'd like to open it up to Jeff Fasano to start us off. 2 minutes or less, please.
Oh, wow. I was hoping you were going to add this. It always seems to dovetail off of him. I think I showed earlier what I'm truly feeling about all of this. I'm in a place where just because of my upbringing and just because of who I am, I never see it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why there's so much, why it matters, why any of this matters. It's based upon fear. It's based upon what you've been taught. It's based upon a belief system that's old and archaic. And that's what needs to shift. I think everybody out there, no matter who they are, anybody watching right now, anybody watching in the future, anybody that has the feelings that are coming up there with them, and just be with those feelings. But look in the mirror and ask yourself, how much do you love yourself? How much do you honor yourself? Can you look past what you look like? Can you look past what others look like? Can you move into the depth of your heart space and ask yourself, can I connect with the essence of someone else's soul, the essence of someone else's heart? As Emily did earlier, close your eyes and listen to somebody else and ask you, and then open your eyes and look at them and say, wow, what they just said really touched me, and see if what they look like comes up, if it bothers you. I think it's all time now to really look inside of ourselves. Really look inside of ourselves. See if there's any fight, if we have to defend, if we're being charged, if we're being triggered, and really look at where there's still separation inside of ourselves. And if any of it comes up, be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror, and if anything comes up where there's separation, where there's fight, where there's needs to defend, where it's about someone looks like, just simply ask yourself, what have I been taught? Where did that come from? And why? Oh, why does it matter?
Jeff Fasano, bringing it home. I want to thank you for truly showing up tonight. What I love about what we do on Real Men, Real Talk Live is that it's a platform for men who have worked through some major stuff in our lives to show up and share from our truth, our reality, and not to be intimidated or afraid to express exactly how you're feeling. And Jeff, you did that tonight. One more time, you showed up as your true authentic self, at ease and with peace with both your, what's referred to in the spiritual world as your masculine and your feminine divinity. And what more can we ask for in our relationships between men and between men and women, that we just all can feel safe enough to express how we feel and who we are, not in our heads, but in our heart space. And I want to thank you and take a moment to honor you for being who you are tonight. And so thank you, Jeff Fasano.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, brother.
I think you get a good night's sleep. No doubt. When we go deep, we're tired, and then it's a feeling of just this feeling of inner freedom. And I know you're going to sleep well tonight. Josh, Ritcher, you're up. 2 minutes, please.
Today, I choose love, and I'm excited that the world is choosing love, and that the call is for love and acceptance. And I'm proud to be on this earth during this time, and to be here in the lead with love, the lead from the heart, not the mind. not the fear, not the sadness, not the pain, to lead with love. And that's what I choose. And I see others around me making those same choices. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Mm.
So I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm excited to see others leading with their heart in a big way and saying no to what the old has been. Burn the house down, as Charles said, and let's lead with love.
Beautiful, brother.
Mm.
Thanks, Josh. Well, I'm going to change it up a bit, and I'm going to leave it up to Evis and Sir Charles, who wants to jump in and share some closing thoughts and perhaps maybe a tip.
Let me jump in because you and Evis is outspoken over there, and wrap up over there. I just want to say that we've had enough of the nonsense and the foolishness for way too long, and it may look ugly for a little while, but I think it was supposed to be this way, and it's going to clear itself out. After the ash is going to be some rainbows. So, but do realize that there is hope, and that with this burning down of the old garb, that there's going to be something brand new, something that should have been here a long time ago, and each one of us plays a role in that, even if it's just feeling empathy, even if it's just a tweet, even if it's just a comment, even if it's just tuning in here and sharing your voice, even if it's standing up for someone on your page that has said something that was out of line, right? I think Martin Luther King said it best. It's not so-called what the bad people do. It's what the so-called good people don't do. We don't want to be the so-called good people who just sit back and watch. We want to take a little bit of action to let the bad people know that this is not okay. So I think, but we're almost there. May have a couple more days of a little bit of hard times, but we're getting there. I think the world is going to change, and we're going to get rid of some stuff that we didn't need and we don't need. And we all know who we don't need. So, Evans, take it away, baby.
Beautiful, my brother. Beautiful. And we'll let Jay the Rothman break it down, I'm sure. But as always, thank you, my brothers. Man, this shit has gone deep tonight. And for our viewers out there, this is how we heal. This is how we come together. We're listening to each other's beautiful stories here through this vehicle we call online, and we truly have come online. There's something I didn't mention that came over the social media stream, and it was a bit of food for thought. I thought we could finish off tonight. The last time Saturn was in Aquarius was during the Rodney King riots. The last time Pluto was in Capricorn was during the American Revolution. The last time Neptune was in Pisces was the fall of Rome. We all have those three in the pocket up in the skies right now. Do you think this is coincidence? No, this is perfect design. Through our stories, through listening, through being able to, what Jay says, reveal, feel, and heal, we're going to be able to win this race, because there is only one race, my brothers and sisters, that is the human race. So on that note, keep it simple. Jay the Rothman, break it down for us, my man. Thanks, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, well, I always want to take a moment here to thank each one of you men and those that joined us from the community tonight for stepping in and allowing all of us to have this important conversation. I'm going to leave it at that. For breaking it down, I've shared my perspective earlier in the conversation in this show, and it comes really down to just kindness, compassion, empathy, and love, first for ourselves and then for others. And where we get to touch others is in our homes, is in our friendships, in our families, with our children, and then reaching out into the community and doing exactly what we've been doing this evening. And so I want to just take this moment to acknowledge each one of you that joined us in our community as those of you that support us tonight and have supported the work that we have done up until this evening on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Thank you so much. And with that, I want to take a moment just to honor each one of you all. And with that, thank you so much for joining us on Real Men, Real Talk Live. Well, we're still on live because for some reason we're having a technical difficulty getting out. So what this really comes down to is in this moment, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity just to say goodnight to all that are with us. And hopefully we'll...
We forgot to say share. Everybody who's still here,
Yeah.
please share it with your friends. Start a Facebook